Can everyone hear me loud and clear? Perfect. Let me just see if this works as well. Perfect. Excellent. So thanks, Dan, for the lovely introduction. And I'm really excited to be presenting to you the current cyber threats. And I'm also eagerly waiting to listen to the SME pitches today. So as you're aware, that the threat landscape and organizations' attack surfaces are constantly transforming. Cyber criminals are quickly adapting to exploit this evolving environment and in fact operating as traditional enterprises with well-defined objectives, roles, and responsibilities. In the next 10 minutes, I will walk you through the top 5 current trends. I'm sure none of the trends that I'm going to talk about will come as a surprise to you, as they've persisted as top threats for the last couple of years. So to start with, we've got ransomware. If there was a competition on the most consistent threat, then ransomware hands down would be crowned as the winner. It still proves profitable. Whilst it has existed for decades, in the recent years, it has become much more sophisticated. It has come a long way from locking screens to encrypting systems, embracing cryptocurrency as a form of payment, or finding ways to become self-spreading. In the past couple of years, actually, ransomware actors have seen increased profits by leveraging 2 new models. The first one is ransomware as a service. It's a business model between ransomware operators and affiliates, in which affiliates pay to launch ransomware attacks developed by operators. Ransomware as a service kits, called as RAS kits, are easily available on dark web and allow for novice affiliates to be up and running with little to no effort. The second model that ransomware operators are leveraging is encryption-less ransom attacks. Now, in this, what they do is they rather than encrypting the victim's system, they exfiltrate sensitive data and leverage that for extortion. This presents new challenges for security professionals. As you can imagine, there is no traditional methods of file recovery and decryption that the security professional can utilize because the data is already exfiltrated. Moving on to the next trend, it is supply chain attacks and specifically software supply chain. The challenge here is that even if an organization has robust cybersecurity measures and a robust security posture, less secure suppliers or third-party providers that interact with or provide services to the more secure organizations or relatively more secure organizations can become a gateway for hackers to bypass that security system. In 2023 alone, we saw 2 significant supply chain attacks with 3CX and MoveIt. The 2 prevalent vectors in software supply chain attacks are, first one's open source and vendor software. So cyber criminals can exploit the authorized use of legit apps by infecting them to compromise or steal sensitive data. The other side to it is that the open source software or the third-party apps may themselves lack privacy protections, which could lead to user data being shared with third parties without consent or being sold to advertisers. The second vector is sophisticated malware. ChatGPT is being utilized for the creation of mutating malware, which helps to evade EDR toolsets. It's difficult to detect them within the supply chain, as they can effectively disguise themselves as secure applications or legitimate software updates. So that's the second threat trend. The third one is identity-based attacks. It has gained prominence and will continue to gain prominence. Now, these are extremely hard to detect. When a valid user's credentials have been compromised and an attacker is masquerading as that user, it is often very difficult to differentiate between what the normal user's activity are versus the hacker's activity, especially using traditional security measures and tool sets. Identity-based phishing attacks, credential stuffing, MFA fatigue attack, brute force attack are some of the prevalent techniques that we see here. What makes this more complicated is that the number of identities is increasing, and this is primarily driven by cloud adoption. To imagine the scale that this threat can reach to, you just need to imagine all the new digital interaction points that a SaaS application or a cloud-based initiative creates between humans, processes, and applications. each requiring an identity of its own. And that nicely brings us to the next trend, which is cloud exploitation. The COVID-19 pandemic had accelerated the then already ongoing trend of cloud adoption to enable remote working, online education, business resilience, and environmental sustainability. But an expanding infrastructure opens doors to more vulnerabilities. Some organizations do not monitor cloud platforms as closely as they would on-premise infra, and instead place their trust in third-party cloud provider who lacks the understanding of the business and the organization's assets. As a result, it doesn't take much effort for threat actors to exploit cloud infrastructure to collect sensitive data or deploy ransomware. Cyber criminals are also exploiting cloud infrastructure, and that's the flip side to the boon that cloud infrastructure provides us, is that cyber criminals are creating highly scalable and reliable command and control infrastructures and botnets on the cloud. An example is a toolkit from Team TNT. It's a threat group known for crypto mining. Their toolkit was used to install Tsunami Bot to abuse public-facing infrastructure by launching distributed denial of service attacks. So that you can see how cloud can be a double-edged sword. The last trend in the cyber threat landscape is OT. Now, only a minority attacks are actually pure OT compromises, like the 2020 attack against Honda and the more recent German wind turbine attack. But as OT virtualization increases and OT cloud connectivity increases, as well as internet connected device increase, this opens up further security issues and new opportunities for attackers. Ransomware operators, too, rarely succeed when they try to compromise OT networks, but they don't really need to in order to achieve their objectives. If you look at the Colonial Pipeline attack, the mere presence of the attacker on the IT network forced preventative OT shutdowns, and the effect was comparable to an OT infection. OT shutdowns, even if preventative, will become more common in the future attacks against the OT-dependent organizations. A couple of trends that I've not listed on the slide, but I think deserve a mention as they're equally important, are, first one, cyber skills gap. It is a perennial problem for this industry where we fail to retain and recruit at speed security resources. We need to find innovative ways to tackle this, but also need to bring in diversity by looking beyond STEM, to bring in that different background into security space, to allow for that additional lens that we need in order to understand cybersecurity. With disruptive technologies like Gen AI and quantum computing, we will be able to do that as well. The second one that I've not listed here is disinformation. AI-enabled disinformation, as well as disinformation as a service, are increasingly making disinformation campaigns easy to implement. These can cause reputational damage to people, organizations, and nations. With geopolitical tensions and looming election, disinformation will certainly see an uptrend. In conclusion, what I'd like to say is that these are trends, which means we've taken the attack data from security operations centers and analyzed to make trends from the past year. But in order to achieve cybersecurity and protect your organizations, you need to look at cybersecurity holistically, not just the trends that are prevalent. Yes, you need to put in processes and detection techniques in order to detect these trends, but also you need to look holistically at the wider attack vectors, which are not really trending, but are still prevalent. Thank you, and I'll hand over back to Dan.